So it's quite common to spot sloth bears over here. Uh, each time I used to come back to Mount Abu, even when I was living abroad, quite easy to spot them on the hillsides over here. But over the last 10 years, the population of sloth bears has increased over here, almost doubled. Um, so uh, the wildlife sanctuary is quite fragmented in the sense that there are a number of villages and the main town, which falls within the wildlife sanctuary and eco-sensitive zone. As you would imagine, with the population expanding and also the villages and town sprawling, uh, their natural habitat is being encroached upon now. So, with increasing frequency, you see the sloth bears sort of venture into uh, settlements and areas which are inhabited by humans. Um, what seems to be a problem is the waste management situation over here. Because there's no adequate waste management systems implemented by the authorities here, you see garbage and waste sort of scattered around roadsides, around settlements. Um, this has led to the sloth bears venturing into urban areas more. I'm sure they don't enjoy socializing with humans, and this is the fundamental, the main reason you could say why they're venturing into urban areas more. For me, what's been shocking is at least in India, we talk a lot about our past and culture, that we've been so in touch with nature, uh, and that it's ingrained into our ethos and way of living. Unfortunately, I don't see that in practice these days. Uh, when I speak to my elders or my parents, they say that there's been quite a change in the way the local communities are living now, that traditional knowledge is being lost, the old way of living with the forest is being lost. Everybody wants an iPhone these days. So uh, our priorities have sort of changed in terms of living in close contact with the nature. What I see over here is the forest now is used as a commodity rather than an asset. We're just extracting from the forest rather than giving anything back. This attitude and this attitude really needs to be worked upon, where we start to value the forest rather than just see it as commodity from which we are extracting. Working with local communities is fundamental, it's essential. It's not actually possible to separate the people living in an environment with the environment itself. They're obviously linked. And I think there's a tremendous amount that all of us can learn from the past. The old traditional way of living in the past, in terms of living side by side with nature, can teach us a lot. Also, it's important to ask what we actually mean by working with indigenous communities. Uh, we somehow seem to assume that we know what those communities want, what their ambitions are, what their way of life needs to be, uh, rather than actually asking them um, how they want to live. I think until there's a sense of ownership of the environment in which people live in, unless that sense of ownership is instilled, it's difficult to convince people to care about it. Um, Not just in India, but anywhere else for that matter. Um, Asian traditional culture generally has a very rich past in terms of managing the environment, the forests, and living in relative harmony with the environment. And the way forward is perhaps to educate a whole new generation within local communities and the surrounding villages and instill some basic environmental awareness and education. Uh, there are challenges on all fronts, working with governmental organizations and groups, and also in terms of creating awareness. So yes, support is required from international organizations and groups. Um, in fact, any and all help is required. As with any conservation work, it's not possible to work in isolation, and it's also not practical. For instance, I would like to extend our plantation work over here, but for that we require resources and also to build relationships. So support in various forms, whether it's resources on the ground, forming links, as well as financial support. It's all essential. Another kind of help which we require over here is from the tourists and visitors who visit Mount Abu. Um, it would be great that they assist with our conservation efforts here instead of just coming here for the weekend and to trash the place with beer bottles, broken glass, plastic, waste, rubbish. Uh, Large areas of the hillsides are covered with broken glass and beer bottles here, which is also dangerous to the wildlife. So some basic awareness is required, and if we can make some inroads with on these issues, it would definitely help our conservation work. So when considering the overall situation on the ground, it's very much a necessity and a requirement to form links with local organizations or international organizations, and we welcome all the help that's possible.